At this time, I would like to call the General Services Committee together, and I'll make a motion to approve the May 20th committee meetings if there are no amendments. And I need a second, please. Thank you, Herb. And at this time, I would like to present Ryan Brandt from Rochester Cornerstone Group representative, and he's going to discuss Glenfield property update. I think he's here. Not here.
Tim, do you want to?
Sure. I'll jump in with number 2.
Okay, Tim. Tim is going to talk to us about event permit proposed changes.
Okay, I brought this up a couple months ago, got a lot of input, wrote notes, went back and kind of tried to figure out how to refine our event permit law. As you guys know, it's still problematic because right now, any event, ATV event over 500 requires insurance, and no one can get that insurance. And there are events going on in Lewis County, but we haven't really been able to figure out what exactly to do with that. So what I'd like to propose is that with the input of your committee and the conversation we had about 2 months ago, is that if we change that from 500 to 2,000 people, you would not require insurance until it was over 2,000. For motorized vehicles only, events with motorized vehicles only. You would remove the insurance requirement. There would still be a notification requirement and a permit requirement, but they would also be required to have a Lewis County trail permit so that we know that each individual vehicle is insured and that they've signed a waiver. So that was kind of the 3 changes: is requiring a Lewis County trail permit for any permit, any event over 500 people, requiring that, or removing the insurance requirement, but replacing that with the trail permit. So that's kind of what I'm proposing. I didn't want to put it in front of this group until we had a little conversation.
So just for clarity, no insurance if it's over 2,000, but if it's over 500, they need a trail permit.
Yes, they would require a trail. Any event would require a trail permit, period. They would not need, the organizer of the event would not need insurance unless the event is over 2,000 participants.
But they need a trail permit regardless of the number of participants.
Yes.
Who would be liable, Tim, if whoever the event organizer is, if there's no insurance, if there was some type of accident or destruction of property?
I will defer to our attorney.
As it is now, there would still remain an indemnity provision for the sponsor that they're running the event. They would be responsible for the activities of their participants. And they would hold us harmless in the event of any claim. Doesn't mean that we wouldn't necessarily be named, but that's what we would have in the agreement. And we would also have something in there that not that we're not requiring it. If we want to know whether or not they have insurance, if they have insurance, they have to name us as an additional insured. But if they don't have insurance, there's still that indemnity provision.
So I think, on the exposure and the risk of this, we get involved because we open 1 or 2 roads for instance, one of the bigger ones. So, unless we are negligent on the road in the first place, I don't really know where there's an exposure. And I think the negligence, you have to have 24 hours notice before, they can prove negligence. So
Yeah, they would have to give us notice of a road condition, a prior notice of the road condition. Yep.
So I'm not sure how big the exposure is for the county when you think about it in that light.
What happens if they're over 2,000? How do we enforce that?
So that's the dilemma that we've been in now. Obviously, the Start Run got canceled because they couldn't meet it. Right now, we have some events going on that we know are over 500, but they're happening, and we have not found a great enforcement mechanism, and it's going to be costly to try to enforce anything, and you're probably not going to get much out of it. If it's over 2,000, now you're starting to get into mass gathering, right? So when they get to 5,000, you've got the state coming in anyway. And that's what we were trying to figure out, is what's the right threshold. But the other thought was that on any given weekend, you probably have 2,000 people up there anyway. And so we don't want the number to be so low that you're just catching normal busy weekend traffic. But we also know that once it goes over 2,000, and Bob can confirm this, is it starts to put a tax on our local first responders and things like that. So that's why we're kind of using that number as a threshold where we need to start to have a plan. We need to have insurance and things like that.
I think with the 2,000 is a good number. And in addition, everyone has to get a OHV trail permit, which in turn, they have to show proof of insurance for them as an individual, which covers them individually, where before it was more or less just spectators. So the individual driver is covered by showing that proof of insurance, and that's what you have to have in order to get a county OHV permit. So it kills two birds with one stone, and on any given weekend, you can have 2,000, if not more, on the public roads, which are public highways. So it's just the mechanism from 2,000 to 5,000. But usually with that size of an event, it's more that you're getting into the mass gathering.
So my thought was I would draft up a red line of the existing local law to show the changes to the committee and the other legislators. And so you can see what we've talked about and how it flows in our local law. So if anybody has any comments, we can try to address it before we propose it as an introductory law. All right.
So one of the things I can see that's going to be challenging is how are we going to enforce the sponsor to ensure that the participants bought a trail permit?
Every discussion that we've had, even with NYMER and everyone about these events, is how do we enforce any of it? People can pull into Lewis County, drop a trailer, and roll out, and there's not much we can do. So that is ultimately a dilemma for any of this. We can ask the organizations to provide us with a list of people who have signed up, and we can cross-check it with Jackie's list. And, we could come up with something to try to verify that prior to the event going off even.
Tim, with that, is there a way, a QR code, once the event promoter applies for a permit, is there a way a QR code can be developed so when they'd have their sign in, that QR code is there? So that's taken, and then that's in relationship ties to a OHV trail permit? Jackie, is that possible?
I would say we'd probably have to confer with IT and see what is.
Easier and less onerous, because one, we don't want anybody having an event to have our complete list.
Right.
Like name, address, phone number is fine, but like, I don't know. And I actually had to talk to Joan about what information we're allowed to give them as far as the permit for the vehicle. Is it vehicle identification number?
We're asking them to give us their list.
Their list for us to verify before, so it's going to be a pre-registration with verification.
But that's a separate question from the QR code, which I think is a good one, and I guess we'll have to check with IT and see if we can do that.
So maybe another answer is if it's an online registration, one of the boxes or whatever would ask, if you have a current trail permit, what is the number? And
Hmm.
if you don't have a number, then you're required to buy one somehow. I don't know if you could.
Venues have sell permits for us. So we could, in worst case scenario, my office could set up somebody for the day of registration to get, sell them a permit if they don't have one.
Because I think a lot of the events are going to the online registration rather than have those 1,000 or 1,500 people that morning of, because it's just pure congestion. They do the online sales, and in turn you have that QR code or to verify that they, like Larry said, you put in your permit number or you buy a OHV trail permit through that QR code, so it's covered.
We could, right in this local law, say that if the event is more than 2,000, you are required to have online registration. And there are some advantages to knowing how many people are going to show up prior to an event.
So we'll have to talk about it a little bit more and get with Connor and see what we can come up with in the proposed language. All good ideas.
Just as a consensus, so should we draft something for the next month's meeting based on the parameters we just talked about? Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Tim and Joan, and all of you. So now are we ready for Ryan Brandt? Is he here? Okay.
Oh, does that work? There we go. Okay. Here's the setup here. All right. Well, again, thanks for having me. My name's Ryan Brandt from Rochester's Cornerstone Group. We are a developer, property manager, obviously from Rochester, New York. Up here to give you all an update on the General Martin Apartments. So this is the proposed development over in Martinsburg, the Glenfield Elementary School, acquiring the building and the site and developing it into 63 apartment units. So we had applied, or actually a little bit more information about Rochester Cornerstone Group. So we, as I mentioned, we're a developer. We also manage the property. So we kind of take pride in that too. Once we develop it, we're not, selling it off to an investor or somebody else. We're there. We're going to be the face at the site. We're going to have 2 staff people on site, one on the management and leasing side of it, the other on the maintenance side. But we will have long-term guarantees for the development. We've done a number of these before. Everyone's unique and different, obviously, with the locality and municipality. But we've been, very successful in whether it's urban, suburban, rural areas, either building new, redeveloping an existing site, adaptive reuses like the Glenfield Elementary School. They all have their own unique challenges too, but we feel we've developed a really good team that will help bring it to fruition and be an asset for Lewis County for years to come. So just to rewind back in time, I guess we applied once to New York State Homes and Community Renewal, HCR. That's the state funding agency that governs a lot of the affordable housing development across the state, but also they community renewal stuff too, right? Some of the Main Street programs and things like that. We applied in fall 2023. Unfortunately, we're not awarded. It is it's a once a year application process, and this past year it was about 75 applicants from across the state. And from that, there were I think there were 28 awards. So it's fairly competitive. And because it's just an annual application process, if you don't get awarded, it's kind of, listen to the state's feedback, listen to the, locality's feedback and resubmit, and then, open pray, cross your fingers. So we were not awarded that first time, but last fall, 2024, we submitted and found out this past March that we were successful and received an award. That award was tax credits, which then we'll turn around and sell to investors, which will become part of the partnership, and also a low interest loan from the state. And then we also, some may have seen, we're part of an application with the town of Martinsburg that received a Empire State Development Award from the Restore New York program. So that focuses on the repurposing of vacant and underutilized sites, like obviously the elementary school over there. So that's a very critical piece to it. As people know, it's a pretty volatile time right now, and pricing, construction pricing is kind of all over the place. We're working with Purcell Construction. We know they do a lot of development or a lot of building here in the North Country, so we think they were a good choice. Opportune and Courier is doing the civil engineering, and SWB Architects, they have offices in Rochester and Syracuse, and they're who we've used on the majority of our developments. We feel very comfortable with them. So right now we're almost at the point where we've got a confirmed timeline with the state on when we would be closing, but the way we're kind of leaning towards right now, or the draft that we have to be sent to the state, would be closing on construction financing this fall. And that would mean also closing on the building and the site this fall with the county too. And obviously there's a lot of time, the next 5 months of certain milestones we'll be hitting. Our civil engineers, architects, mechanical engineers, everybody is full speed ahead, green lit, and they're drawing, they're designing. So a lot of coordination going on there, and it's all going to lead towards this closing hopefully this fall. So we're working with Purcell again to make sure we're cognizant of the winter conditions that are needed and everything else, because it's not just the adaptive reuse of the school, for which there will be 29 apartments, adaptive reuse for 29 apartments. We're also going to have a new building next to it of 34 units. So it's going to, obviously we're going to work with the planning board to make sure that we're complementing. It's going to do the best we can to kind of fit into the landscape to try and complement the school. So those two developments, or those two buildings combined, the new construction and the adaptive reuse, will total the 63 total apartments. Our plan is to start the construction all at once in the fall. So Purcell would immediately start, breaking ground, fingers crossed on a good winter or good fall, I guess, to be able to get some of the site work in, and the immediate, some abatement, stabilization, and getting that school ready for the adaptive reuse to add the apartments. So construction would go obviously through the winter, looking into next fall, and we're still trying to firm down somewhere between a 14 and 16 month construction period though. So that would put us online, sometime around the start of 2027. So we'd start marketing, leasing activities long in advance. The state has a very prescribed marketing period that we'll make sure we're getting the word out to everybody. It's a lottery process that everybody has to go in, everybody has to qualify, meet certain requirements, but we'll have many months of marketing and make sure we're getting ahead of it to make sure everybody knows about it that's looking to move there. And beyond that, like I mentioned, we'll be managing. Cornerstone Property Managers is our management company subsidiary. We would, we'd be again in it for the long-term guarantees, long-term compliance, all sorts of eyeballs on it with the investors, some of the lenders. The state will be doing their audits. So there's established reserve accounts to make sure that we're upkeeping the property as well. We're not kind of letting it fall by the wayside. So you'll have our word on that, and we've got our word given, and our financial guarantees given to a lot of the other lenders. And we're excited for the fall. I'm sure you all have a lot of questions you may have for the development, but I'll kind of open it up to see what you all have to ask.
Ri- Is it okay if so Ryan, are you going to be involved in um, the, as the relation to the county, or is there somebody else who will be assigned to keep the county in the loop on the progress?
Yeah, we do have we have another employee who, I guess we were here probably 2 years ago. I think it was summer 2023, right after we were selected as part of the RFP. Robert Gruner Loud he's going to be probably the main contact. He's out of town on vacation this week, just happened to fall this week. So he'll be the main contact, but myself, we're down in Rochester. Robert has family in the area, so he's actually a property owner as well. So he's up here often, and we'll be up here as part of construction administration as well. But we know there's going to be a lot of communication needed over the next 5 months, right? Whether it's with the IDA, with anybody else at the county, whoever we need to keep in the loop to make sure everyone's apprised to our progress.
Any other questions for Ryan? Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks.
And at this time, we'll ask Kaylee Rhodes to come up and talk to us about communication and intermunicipal outreach plan. Push your button.
I know that. Just wait for my power though.
Okay. I don't have any good jokes. Sorry, guys. All right. So I'm going to present on my communication strategic plan. It's not clicking. There we go. Okay, so this strategic plan is designed to support open, honest, and accessible communication with all members of our community. This plan will guide us on how we connect with residents, including the youth, families, older adults in our community, as well as legislators, local businesses, partner organizations, nonprofits, county departments and employees, and municipal leaders. By using a variety of tools and communication methods, I aim to strengthen relationships and help build a more transparent and connected community. So who are the key audiences? Just about everybody. So my overall goals would be to improve public awareness, build trust and transparency, enhance communication between the county and the towns and villages, strengthen the county department's online presence and department collaboration, and improve digital engagement and platform use. So the first goal would be to improve public awareness. The purpose of this goal is to increase visibility and understanding of the programs, services, and events available to the community so that all audiences are empowered to engage, access resources, and make informed decisions. By improving public awareness, we reduce barriers to participation, build trust, and strengthen community connection and collaboration. So I can help achieve this by continuing to use social media, including Facebook events and paid advertisements, as well as highlighting a program or department monthly. I've already started to use these tactics. There is currently a paid ad that's running for public transportation that's advertising the bus route for students and families to use to get to Old Forge who are visiting for the day or are now employed. I've also started creating online event pages for the county events like the upcoming Lewis County Night Out that is in September. We will create the county podcast to help bring light to programs, events, and educational opportunities, such as understanding the budget process or how temporary assistance programs works. The podcast will be available on our website, posted on all of our social media accounts, and available on 15 different streaming platforms. I also would like to launch a monthly newsletter to help keep everybody informed. I've been collecting a database or subscribers to the county newsletter for a few months by advertising it on our main website page, allowing people who would like to stay informed to sign up. We currently have, I believe, around 130 people that have signed up, and we haven't even begun to advertise that we're going to be offering this. So people just went ahead and signed up on their own so that they could stay informed. My next goal would be to build trust and transparency. The purpose of this goal is to build trust and transparency by openly sharing how decisions are made and keeping the community informed in ways that are clear, accessible, and meaningful. By responding to public feedback, highlighting the work happening behind the scenes, and offering regular updates across multiple platforms and formats, we aim to show that local government is listening, accountable, and working in the best interests of the community. Some of the tactics that I would use would be to share short, plain language recaps of key actions and decisions that are made during board and committee meetings to help the public understand what was decided and why it matters. Regularly updating the public about upcoming changes, ongoing projects, and policy decisions. And make updates available in many different formats to ensure everyone in the community has access, whether that's on paper or digital. The next goal would be to enhance communication and collaboration between county government and local towns and villages. This was an important focus item that was brought to my attention. I hope to achieve it by continuing to send out the monthly updates to all village and town leaders and encourage questions and feedback to be submitted. Meet with different municipality leaders to discuss how we can better connect, promote transparency, and celebrate our accomplishments, and send progress reports from legislative goals that would pertain to them. The next one, strengthen county departments' online presence and department collaboration. I hope to strengthen the relationships between, just kidding. I want to help departments share their work more effectively, build trust, and foster collaboration both within the county government and within the community. Ultimately, it aims to increase awareness of department initiatives, promote transparency, and encourage department cooperation to better serve the county's residents. I hope to assist department heads with creating and maintaining LinkedIn accounts, identifying, create department-specific content for social media and podcast episodes, focusing on the departments who currently do not share any content. Encourage cross-promotion and collaboration, and develop guidelines for departments to portray a consistent and clear message to the community. The next would be to improve digital engagement and platform use. I aim to improve how the county connects with residents by modernizing and diversifying its digital presence. By expanding to new platforms, using compelling visuals and stories, and establishing consistent content practices, we aim to reach broader audiences, boost engagement, and make county information more accessible, relevant, and user-friendly. We could evaluate and pilot emerging platforms like TikTok, Twitter, Nextdoor to expand reach and meet residents where they are. Using storytelling, photography, and video to create compelling, people-centered content that encourages interaction and builds trust with the community. And then establish clear content guidelines and a strategic posting calendar to ensure that consistency, tone, and alignment across all digital channels are met. And I just wanted to touch on, this was a goal that I originally had, but given everything else that I would like to accomplish, I think this is going to be pushed a little farther out. But something that I would like to see would be expanding community opportunities. So making it so our website could be kind of a community hub where people could submit their local events and we can have them all listed in one spot rather than having to dig through different social media accounts to find everything. It would just be all in one area. And we could use the county podcasts and social media channels to spotlight the events and kind of drive them to that page as well. And this plan is very much a work in progress. I hope to grow it and improve it over time. So any suggestions or feedback or any other ideas that you have would be greatly appreciated. Any questions?
Can you send me that PowerPoint?
Yes.
Thanks.
I'd like to say good job. And I like your idea of the community hub on the website. How hard would that be to implement?
We already have the ability. I just would like to have more of a visual. So right now it's just a list. I'd like to have like a flyer or images added to it so that we can make it a little more like aesthetically pleasing and to make it easier to see as well.
If you don't mind, I can chime
Yep.
in on it. The one caveat there is that we are focusing on accessibility. So we want whatever content that we're portraying out there to be accessible. But we have the capability to, whether it's form submissions or whatever, and I'm sure there's some level of automation, or whether it gets screened through Kaylee, which more than likely you'll want a set of human eyes.
Yep.
Screening events that are submitted to like a hub, but we certainly have that capability. So we would partner with Kaylee or whatever departments to get that working.
I think that's a great idea. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I like the fact of meeting with the town and village officials to get their feedback.
Yeah, I'd like to establish relationships so they feel they can come to us and vice versa to try to get some feedback. And especially with sending out those monthly updates that people are starting to engage back with me as we're sending them out, which is great, asking questions, which is awesome. Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're ready for draft resolutions.
All right, the first one is authorizing renewal agreement with Unified Court System for cleaning and maintenance services for the interior of the Lewis County Court Facility, as well as preventative building and property maintenance services for this facility for the period retroactive to April 1st, 2025 through March 31st, 2026, in consideration of the payment of $162,952.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any nays? Carried.
Transferring $29,000 from general contingency to building and grounds account lines for increased energy expenses for Glenfield School Building and Highway Garage Building.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any nays? Carried.
Directing the demolition and removal of an unsafe structure located at 1057 Ammon Road in the hamlet of West Leiden pursuant to local law number 2-2007, and that in the event that the county provides for these services, all of the costs and expense shall be assessed against the land upon which it is located.
Any discussion?
Andrea, if I could, on this particular property, you can see in the resolution that the owner is deceased. I did have the ability to reach out to her son, and he's not in a position to take the steps to demolish the structure or do any of that. He has been paying the property taxes on the property. It's still in his deceased mother's name. He had a sister who predeceased, and she had 2 children who he's in touch with. So my thought was to throw it out to the committee and to the board if you want to consider whether or not the county offers to have him have that estate turn over their interest in the property to the county, because If we don't do that, we can go in and demolish it, but because the taxes have been paid up to date, we won't be able to foreclose and recapture unless they pay the taxes next year, which I doubt. Whether or not we want to, we would have to wait 3 years to foreclose on the property. So I just want to throw that out there. We could certainly still have the hearing at the next meeting, and his indication to me was that neither he nor his niece and nephew were intending to show up, but we can keep it on the schedule for the meeting and then see what happens and have some further discussion at that time if I can reach out to him again. I just want to make you aware of that. That's another possibility that we could do.
Thank you, Joan.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Yes, what would be the timeline if we wait for that to happen?
Well, we would give them 30 days, which is normally in our local law for a cleanup, to do it. And if not, the order after the hearing at the next meeting would be that the county could go in and clean it up. So we could do that this summer. We may have to do an RFP, but we could have that done. Because I do understand that it's on the main road there and there's concern about the right of way, right?
Right, nothing's been touched on that building since the collapse, the day it collapsed, and it is, I'm not sure why the state isn't doing anything because it's sitting on the sidewalk.
Mhm.
It's right to the road.
Yeah.
They set up some barrels and that's all the state has done on it. So, the residents are kind of, I get a lot of questions, what's going to be done with that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would like it, obviously, as soon as possible, something to be done, but I understand we have to wait. I just didn't want, if we're waiting for them to transfer ownership, I understand the benefit of that to the county, but on the other aspect, how long does, that take? That's all.
It sounds like it's a safety issue.
Yeah, so, I mean, if the committee wants to consider it, I could reach out to that person. We could have a resolution, a late resolution to transfer ownership. But otherwise, it'll be about 30 days before we get in there to clean anything up. One way or the other, I guess.
Which is fine, as long as it's not like another.
Yeah,
6
we don't
months,
want it to be another 6 months or anything.
Right. Any ideas?
My thought is if the families indicated that they want to turn the property over, maybe Joan, you could start something like you offered. I would support that. That seems like that might be the end anyhow. I've heard that from just scuttlebutt in the town too, that the family wants to transfer. They don't have interest in the building truly,
Yeah.
so.
So I can certainly draft a resolution for the board to authorize that purchase like we did for the Turin property, and have that in the packet for the July meeting, and then we can have this discussion and then move forward one way or the other. And I'll try to speak with him a little bit further.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Carried.
Appropriating $200,000 from county road fund balance to county road account lines for additional engineering related to FEMA storm DR 4814 Hurricane Beryl.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Carried.
Appropriating $295,000 in additional New York State CHIPS funding to county road account lines.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any nays? Carried.
Authorizing the Lewis County Highway Department with assistance from the Lewis County Soil and Water Conservation District and Lewis County Planning and Community Development Department to submit the online consolidated funding application through the New York State DEC Water Quality Improvement Project Funding Program to replace 5 culverts, 3 on the number 3 road, 1 on the Cobb Road, and 1 on the Wood Battle Road.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Carried.
Authorizing a memorandum of agreement between the Federal Highway Administration, New York State Historic Preservation Office, New York State Department of Transportation, and the town of Watson for the culvert project known as Bailey Road over Independence River to implement various stipulations, including but not limited to the county securing, an architectural historian to document the field work record of this historic bridge prior to demolition.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any nays? Carried.
Declaring no significant environmental impact in adding the 0.2 miles of trail and parking area identified as parcel number 259.02-01-12.120 in the town of Martinsburg to the Lewis County Trail System based upon the report from Soil and Water Conservation District.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any nays? Carried.
Authorizing the 0.2 miles of trail and parking area located in the town of Martinsburg, identified as parcel number 259.02-01-12.120 to be incorporated into and made part of the Lewis County Trail System.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any nays? Carried.
And the last one is adopting local law number 5-2025, a local law amending local law 3-2015, a local law of the county of Lewis to provide a uniform system for managing the collection, transportation, and disposal of solid waste and recyclables.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any nays? Carried. There is no motions and there is no executive session. Is there anything anyone would want to discuss that we haven't covered today? I would ask for a motion to adjourn. Thank you in a second. Thank you. We're adjourned.
2025 committee minutes if no amendments. Do I have a second? Tom? Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay, we'll start off with the presentation. We have 3 today. The first one will be Quantify Analytics Update with Evan Jennings, who is the owner of Quantify Consulting. Evan?
Test, test. Here we go. I feel like I know everybody on this side of the table, and I only know Tim on this side of the table. But Larry, Barry, Jessica, good to see you 3 that I haven't met yet. And what I hope to accomplish here is give you a quick update on what we delivered at first for the solid waste department. That's something that we started back in January of this year and carried through till about the end of March. Since then, there's been 3 additional projects that we've kind of scoped out with everybody and that we're going to move forward with. And the one I think that's most interesting today is going to be a project around surfacing budget versus actuals by department and also overall for the whole county. And there's talk of making that not only accessible certainly internally to department heads and to the county manager and the legislators, but maybe having some external accessibility to that sort of reporting as well. But we'll get there when the slide comes, I suppose. Do I have a way to advance? Is this gonna? Here we go. Cool. Okay. So that's the agenda. We'll recap quick the first solid waste project. We'll introduce all 3 new projects that have been discussed, and then we'll talk more specifically about the budget versus actuals dashboard that we're working on, and conclude with a invitation to raise your hand and join the group that's going to be scoping that dashboard out. Cool. So I realize the visuals on this slide are pretty small. I'm not sure if you can see a little bit of what we delivered for the solid waste department. So we started that project back in actually the end of December in a group where we just tried to think about, how do we improve the transparency into the operations of this department by surfacing some metrics and KPIs that are going to be really beneficial, not only to Kip and his folks, but also to the legislators and to Tim. An outcome of that meeting was 2 different dashboards that we put together. One is focused on unit economics, and the other one is focused on cost management. So that was, again, you can't really see those visuals super well, but hopefully that paints a picture of the type of dashboard, that we're building and kind of our process in building some of that, putting it together. And what we were able to deliver with this first project was, first of all, I think the county's one of the county's first forays into automated analytics, which is a big milestone. But specifically, we looked at the recycling program and trying to give Kip and his team the best possible insight into how that recycling program is being used by different haulers to make sure that if they need to address any issues they see with those different haulers, they're equipped with the right information to do so. We also surfaced some gross margin insights. One of the things that we were really interested in understanding better was, hey, some folks take their solid waste directly up to the landfill in Rodman, and we take a surcharge on every ton that goes through up to Rodman, but they can also bring it to a transfer station, whether it's Lowville or Krogan, and then we have a bunch of workflows to process that and bring it to Rodman ourselves. And so there was an interesting comparison of the gross margin, direct haul versus through the transfer station. So we were able to give them some better data around those numbers. And then finally, we looked into labor cost efficiency, specifically when it comes to different months of the year and how staffing compares to waste volumes across different months. And we also compared even across different days of the week. Obviously, some days of the week tend to be higher volume in general when it comes to waste flowing into the transfer stations. And so we compared that against how they staff on each day of the week to give, again, Kip and his team the best possible information to make some good decisions. So on the heels of a very exciting first project with solid waste, we're embarking on a number of new projects throughout the rest of this year. The first, well, chronologically, I don't know if this will be the first, but the first one that I'll mention is a phase 2 project with the solid waste department, where we're going to reorganize their existing reporting around
waste diversion metrics. As we've worked more with both KIP as well as the folks up at the landfill, we've understood better that waste diversion is a really important metric to be tracking. In addition to that, this solid waste phase 2 project will also look at Krogan's numbers in terms of waste volumes coming into that transfer station and how much it costs to process that versus waste that's brought right to Lowville. And finally, some better vehicle repair versus replace decisions based on the data. The second one that I'll mention here, and the one that's going to come first chronologically, is implementation of a data architecture and infrastructure within Microsoft Azure. So the first project that we embarked on in the dashboard that we put together in solid waste phase 1 was creative in terms of how we brought the data into Power BI. And when you want to do that at scale, when you want to bring a lot of data into your visualization tool, a data warehouse like Microsoft Azure is kind of a prerequisite to doing that at a bigger scale. And so that implementation will allow us to do analytics at a much bigger scale and in a much more sophisticated way than we were able to do with the first project. And then finally, the one that's probably most interesting to this group here is this budget versus actual set of dashboards that we want to create. I call it that because it remains to be fully scoped, and that's part of why I'm here today, is to look for folks who are willing to be a part of those conversations. But we know that there's going to be a component of year-to-date budget versus actual, as well as projections through the end of the year. Cool. So this is kind of the objective, I guess you'd say, with that dashboard that we are going to start putting together. Certainly, internally and externally, enabling better visibility into where the numbers are trending when it comes to spending versus what was budgeted. And the process that we follow with any dashboard project, and this is no exception, is starting with the end, working backwards from what's going to be most impactful and meaningful for the folks using a dashboard like this. And then we work backward to say, okay, how do we put it all together? But we really want to start with the objectives. And that's part of why this group of people who are going to help us scope are so crucial to the success of this project. Oh, I got ahead of myself on the working backwards thing. But understand leadership objectives is really the first priority here before we go and build anything. Cool. So you might fit the bill. You might be interested in being a part of this if you are interested in the state of these financial numbers, whether that's just for your own department, or whether that's you're a legislator and you're looking across all of these different departments, or whether you're Tim Hunt and you're looking across all of these different departments, then you might be a good fit for helping us think through what insights are going to be most impactful. And again, I'll restate that this project is really meant to be internally and externally relevant. We want to make sure that there's opportunity to surface some of these numbers for residents as well as for those who are internal to county government. Cool. I'll open it up for any thoughts or questions you have, and I'll leave it on this next steps slide in terms of what to do if you're interested in being a part of it.
Just a few comments. This goes to the legislative goal that we identified earlier this year of getting more transparency into the budget for the legislators and for the public. If you'll remember last year's budget session, we had some discussion about how do we make more graphical presentation out of our budget, and how do we let the public see on a more routine basis what's happening and where our departments stand. So this is a work through to that. And so we did the proof of concept with solid waste. We took a smaller department and said that will this work? And we've proven that it will. And so now we're going to try to roll it out, involve some legislators in building out the next phase of that. And then just as an introduction for those of you who don't know, Evan is a local here who spent his career working for Amazon. And then after COVID, they said, we want you to come back to work in New York City. And his family said, no, we like Lewis County. We'd like to stay here. So he started a business, and we ran into him and thought, what a great way to get some of this data that we need. So thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Evan, is the information coming from, for departments, would it be coming from our munis entries? Is that where where you're working. with
That's
that
exactly
information?
right. Yeah, the back end kind of code name for this project is the Munis GL project, but for this purpose we called it budget versus actuals. But that is going to all come out of Munis. We'll be setting up automations to bring that into the Azure data warehouse, and then from there we'll display it in a Power BI dashboard, or maybe more than one.
Any other questions? Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Our second presentation today will be Lewis County Youth Funding Inventory. I'm going to invite Caitlin Lawler, Director of Lewis County Youth Bureau, and Andrea Warden, the Assistant to the Commissioner. Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having us in. We're going to go back and forth through this. So I'm going to start off. We were tasked with looking into youth recreation in Lewis County. So I wanted to start off with just talking about what makes youth recreation so important. We're going to get into this next in a couple more slides, but I look at it as the fact, kids are out of school during the summer months. So providing them with some structure, some opportunities, things to do. And then if we look into that further, what it can provide, we have the physical and mental health benefits. Obviously, childhood obesity, physical activity can help fight that. It's teaching them about healthy lifestyles. Then we also have the socialization factor. They're socializing with peers, other youth the same age or different ages. Then they're interacting with the staff. So they have adult mentors and they're interacting with the community in general. A lot of these programs too tend to incorporate some type of educational component. And then these also contribute back to the community as well. So it's not only for the youth, a lot of the families like these opportunities for their youth. Some families like to move into certain areas if they know the school districts, if they know the programs, opportunities available in that area. And there's also the employment opportunities, economic benefits. We like to look at it in terms of thinking summer youth employment as well. These are programs providing youth services, but then also they can employ youth as well and keep them in Lewis County over the summers working. And then while they're in these programs, they're going to learn a lot of leadership, teamwork. It's going to build self-confidence, teach them some responsibility. So we have that development of future leaders incorporated too.
So in 2024, we had 6,114 youth under the age of 18. You'll see 2,793 of those fall within 5 and 12, which is the typical summer rec age. That means that 46% of our youth are potentially interested in summer rec. Part of what we did was we sent some surveys. We sent 45 surveys total to the schools, libraries, towns, villages, and 2 additional ones for more information specifically on the Village of Lawville's rec. And we received 32 responses back. I shared a spreadsheet with Cassandra to be emailed to the group that has more detailed responses, but this will be some of the feedback we received. We received maybe half of the libraries responded. Most of them have some sort of summer reading program and other activities throughout the year. You'll find that information on either their website or their Facebook page. As stated, we sent surveys to all 5 schools and we included Adirondack because it serves our southern Lewis County, and we did know that they had an existing summer recreation program. So all of the school districts offer some sort of program. Some are more academic based, others include recreation and academics. They basically said that they serve youth within their district and they provide transportation. Several of the schools also include breakfast and lunch for these youth. So towns and villages, the majority responded they do not have their own recreation program. They do, several mentioned that they maintain their parks, playgrounds, that sort of recreation opportunities. And they also, most of them said that they contribute to the school districts. And then the town and village of Lava, as most people know, they partner together. They budget for and contract with Double Play to run a 6-week program. Last year, 257 youth attended that program, with 42% of them being from within the town and village. And we did want to note that only 7 of those youth were actually from outside of Lewis County. The 2025 program, they changed it up a little. They have a cap of 175, and people outside of the village or town would have to pay 375. We did get an update as of June 10th. There was 155 youth who had been signed up.
So part of that survey too, we wanted to ask people if they saw or noticed any gaps in youth recreation and what they thought of that. So we have lots of examples. I'm not going to read through all of these if you guys want to take the time to look at them and see what different people had to say. But overall, there's like a common theme. Some of the gaps are like there needs to be more independent opportunities. You know, if it's not related to a program, maybe there's a park or a playground, certain equipment that they can go to that's close to them. Another thing was looking into opportunities besides just sports, maybe looking into more art programs, different type of clubs that aren't just physical activity. And then also taking into consideration any youth that may have special education needs or are not of school age. And I also wanted to mention in here too, I was part of Naturally Lewis Leadership Academy, and we did SOAR projects, and one of them focused on the Youth Bureau. So we did a separate survey that we sent out to the schools. And that was very interesting to hear from the youth themselves, like their perspective. They really wanted to see more sports was like their number one answer. But then they liked esports, arts club, cooking classes, and religious clubs. So then we also asked about additional feedback, and we summarized this kind of in the next couple slides. The big thing that we got about feedback from this was about funding. Funding is super crucial. First of all, it's involved in the hiring process, how much it takes to run the program. But then there's the factor that you have to look into how reliable is it going to be? Can you depend on that every year? It's uncertain. There's always changes in funding and things like that. And then someone did mention in here, like I said, if you guys want to read this, that sometimes there's conflicts with other priorities. If they need to do spendings on other things like paying for snowplows, they're not going to have that extra money to take into consideration summer recreation. And this was more on the same type of things, but these feedbacks kind of went into talking more about collaboration. So a lot of people see the insight in how we need to work together. We need to share ideas. Maybe that could help with looking into the funding and the cost, sharing things like that. So we came up with a few different potential administrative funding solutions. The first one is looking at the county could provide funds to school districts. A lot of school districts already do have their own recreation programs. They have the summer school staff that could work during the summer, as well as youth that would be willing to take that on. And then the county could provide additional funds to the Youth Bureau to be used for recreation scholarships or additional recreation opportunities. As the Youth Bureau director, I just feel like we would need that separate because the group we tend to look at, we want to prioritize like new applicants first. And then also we're looking for people that apply. We want to see their funding like decrease so they're not asking for the same amount every year and not solely relying upon us as the sole source of funding. 3 is find a better way to coordinate assigning summer youth employment participants to recreation programs. So keeping the summer youth employed here in Lewis County, a lot of them tend to like to go outside places. Number 4 is looking into partnering with local charitable organizations and businesses to sponsor recreation programs. This kind of goes into the next slide. We have an example. So the village of Carthage, they run a free summer rec program for 60 youth ages 6 to 12. They budget around $27,000 for the personnel, but then they use the funding, they use summer youth employment, and then they look to local businesses to sponsor snacks, lunches, things like that. I was actually on my news app this morning and I saw that Messina was doing a similar thing, and they get free lunches from Stewart's and I think Subway, different local organizations in the area. And then several other counties and municipalities reviewed recreation and included it under the Parks and Recreation. I mean, the names kind of go together. Sometimes if people are looking for recreation, they might find themselves just looking at the Parks and Recreation site. I think this ties in too to some people saying the more independent opportunities, like they want to know about parks that aren't related to a program. And then we did ask in the survey if people would be interested in joining the Lewis County Recreation Committee, and we did get 79% of the respondents said yes. So that was great to see that there's people from different towns, villages, different programs, different school districts too, willing to come together, talk about this, share ideas, talk about sharing funding, just making this happen. And the last one we added in was creating a countywide recreation program open to all youth without regard of school district or municipality restrictions, because I feel like that tends to be a barrier that gets brought up, is like those lines.
Then we just had a couple additional suggestions. Number one is we did reach out to public health. They have a naturally healthy app that you may all be aware of. The county could potentially help to support that because it does currently include maps of all of parks, playgrounds, stuff like that, if people are looking for stuff to do. And public health has kindly agreed to put that information on their website. And my other thing that I kind of found while doing this is that it's not that there's a lack of rec, but there's a lack of if you don't know where to look for it. So actually, like Kaylee mentioned earlier, I think a community calendar would be an excellent resource so people could submit, hey, sign your kids up for soccer this Thursday and stuff like that. And in conclusion, our focus was that rec is important for youth because it gives them socialization, physical, mental health. It gives them some place to go in the summertime if their parents are at work and we know they're safe and supervised. And we also are looking to see, like, as the board, if there's an opportunity to support rec either through funding or just to help the county as a whole share resources to make it more accessible. And that's it.
Any questions?
What do you see as the biggest challenge to get the youth engaged to coming to the rec programs?
I mean, that's hard for me to say because like my biggest interaction with them has been the Loudville one because I've had the most experience. Like we fund them, the Youth Bureau. We haven't funded other ones. So I hear back from them. Like it seems like the ones in the area, but I feel like transport is the biggest. If they're not living close to it, they have to get there somehow. So then that involves setting up the busing. Who's paying for that? How's that's going to be arranged? Where are they going to meet for pickups if they're coming from different areas? I think cost too, like families are going to take that into consideration, what is best for them. And then that involves like the programs. I feel like we hear from certain ones, they're having trouble. They want to make it as best for the families and available to people, but you have to have that staff and you have to make it happen.
I like the leadership component into that, right from the little kids up through. I think that's great.
Yeah.
You identified 3 strategies that you could just implement now. One was the community calendar and using the Department of Health. Are you going to go ahead and pursue those 3 strategies?
Public health has agreed to and is working on getting that up on the website. I know it's not live as of a couple days ago. And I have spoken with Kaylee about the potential of the community calendar. It's something I would like to see go forward.
Anyone else? Thank you.
Thank you.
So for our third presentation, we have a farmer's market coupon announcement. So I'm going to invite Carla Hellinger, Director of OFA.
Thank you. So it is the time of year already for farmers market coupons. We've had a lot of phone calls and a lot of office visits, people looking for their farmers market coupons. Each older adult in the household is eligible for their own booklet. of vouchers, five $5 vouchers, so $25 total. If they meet age and income requirements, which I'm going to go over next, one booklet per person per year. There is a little bit of confusion right now because people that have been taking chronic disease, self-management program classes through our office, also the county put one on, and diabetes management classes through public health have also been getting some vouchers. Those are separate. Those are for prescription fruit and vegetable program. So the eligibility requirements, you must be 60 or older. And then there is an income guideline and it's outlined on the bottom. So for a single person household, $2,413 per month. Last year, our office gave out 690 booklets for a total dollar value of $17,250. That was our record to date. This year, New York State Office for the Aging is going to be sending us 1,500 booklets for a total dollar value of $37,500. So that's where I need your help. So this has the same information as the flyer that I gave you. This is also available on our county website, Office for the Aging. You may have heard some media with this information as well. We have 10 days that we'll be handing these out at 17 different locations. So I would ask that you please help spread the word to your constituents and anyone that may be eligible. We would love to be able to hand out all 1,500 booklets of these because they really help our residents. They help the farmers at the farmers market. This is a wonderful program. So we would love to see it be successful. This is where we need your assistance. If anybody would like some additional information, please call our office. Like I said, we've been getting calls already and office visits. The state is planning on mailing these out the first week in July. So we're hopeful that our first date, which is at the Lions Falls Farmers Market, we will be ready to go on July 8th. Any questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the draft resolutions. Cassandra?
The first one is appointing Colonel Christina M. Buckner, Commander of the U.S. Army Medical Department Activity of Fort Drum, New York, as an ex officio non-voting advisory member to the Lewis County Hospital Board of Managers.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Reappointing Commissioner of Lewis County Department of Social Services as Jennifer Jones for an additional 5-year term commencing July 8th, 2025 through July 7th, 2030.
Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Okay.
And the last one is reappointing Lisa Woodrick of Copenhagen, New York, and Mike Levicker of Lowell, New York, as members of the Lewis County Youth Bureau Advisory Board, effective July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2027.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? All right, we have no motions and no executive. Is there anything else? Okay, I will make a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Barry, any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Okay, we're adjourned.
We'll call the Finance and Rules Committee together. I make a motion that we approve the May 20th committee minutes. If there's no changes or adjustments to it, do I have a second? Herb? Thank you. All in favor, aye? Aye. Approved. We have a few presentations today. The first is going to be audit results report from EFPR representatives. Welcome.
Hello, everyone.
Button, there you go.
It's good. Okay, so what we did is we put together this presentation on the screen. This way we can go through all the information in a little bit more of a condensed version. But at any point, if anyone has questions on the audit financial statements, I'm more than happy to go into anything in more detail. So if we could flip to the next page, please. Or do I have the clicker? What we did is we put together our audit team up here because being a county, it is quite a heavy lift. So I really want to thank Eric and his team because there's a lot of information in here. But we always like to put our audit team up just so you can see the amount of people it really takes to be able to put this together. Just a quick overview of our timeline. We actually started the audit back in March. So you can see this is a lengthy process, but the fact that the information was ready from Eric in March shows how organized this team is, because typically county doesn't really start till May or June. The audit results, we are going to be issuing what's called a clean or unmodified audit opinion on the financial statements. Essentially, that's the highest level of opinion you can receive. That means the financial statements are fairly stated and the information in there is all backed up by the data and the records. We also did what's called a single audit. If you receive over a certain threshold of dollars from the federal government, you have to have a compliance audit. So as part of that audit, we looked at Medicaid as well as the American Rescue Plan Act. That's the money that came in from COVID over the past few years. That money is coming to an end, but that is considered a high-risk program by the federal government. We looked at both those programs, no issues there with compliance. And New York State Department of Transportation also requires a compliance audit, mostly over their CHIPS money. We did not note any issues there. So overall, all three of the audits that we did received clean, unmodified opinions. And part of government auditing standards, we also have to do a 2-page report in the back of the financial statements that states if we come across any type of internal control weaknesses or violations of laws or regulations, we would have to disclose that there, but we did not have anything of that nature you need to be aware of. From a numerical standpoint, the way the financial statements work, we have to take all of your governmental funds, aggregate them, as well as put on certain long-term items that don't go onto your funds. So you're going to see some large increases from the prior year. Your total assets actually increased by $5.7 million. We did spend a good amount of money in the capital projects fund to build certain new projects. You're going to see a couple categories called deferred inflows and outflows. Those really vary significantly year over year. And the reason for that is your health insurance. The Government Accounting Standards Board requires that we do a long-term estimate. If the county closes today, how much money we're going to have to pay out to our retirees for their health insurance. So we see large fluctuations in those numbers every year. And that's also a reason the total liabilities increased by nearly $13 million. But really, if you take those three categories, they really net down to a yearly expense. Overall, the net position or your equity increased by $2.8 million. We had to break that out into 3 different buckets called net investment capital assets, which essentially are your capital projects, less any debt to finance those. Restricted net position, which is set by the board, as well as anything left over called unrestricted. But really, I like to focus on the fact that the net position actually did increase year over year. From the income statement side, you'll see that your program revenue actually decreased by about $3 million. It's really because we had a shift in how we account for retiree health insurance now that a lot of those individuals are coming off that plan. And your general revenue actually did decrease. That number might look a little stunning of $38 million, but the reason for that is that OPEB number I just discussed, that large estimate of your health insurance, that was $100 million revenue in the prior year, just because the estimates changed by so much that they had to actually go through revenue opposed to expense. And your expenses did actually decrease by $6 million year over year. As part of the financial statements, we also have to do a category called business type activities. That includes the hospital. That's going to be by far the biggest part of that, as well as your solid waste fund and your workers' compensation fund. We're going to see some large changes that are very similar. The bottom 3 bullet points all changed with that OPEB program, but overall your assets actually did increase year over year as well. And it's very similar to the governmental activities, your business type activities actually increased by $2.3 million. Considering that the hospital accounts for the majority of that, that's really good to see because historically the hospital has had some poor results in prior years. And we'll see actually a change. Your actual revenue actually increased by $17 million. And that relates most of the hospital. There's an increase in patient volume in the current year. And your expenses look, once again, it's going to look a little bit big, $85 million increase, but that is because the OPEB went from a revenue to an expense this year. So it's a little difficult to compare year to year, but overall it's just that one number, that long-term estimate that comes from an actuary. I really like to focus on the general fund. That's really where we set the budget. So we're going to actually see some more consistent results because we don't have to put some of those long-term items in there. We have a decrease in assets of nearly $10 million. We had a good amount of investments. Those did decrease. But a lot of that is because we set in the budget going into the year, we expected to have a decrease in fund balance year over year as your appropriated fund balance. So you will see at the bottom bullet point, the fund balance actually decreased by $3.6 million. So we actually had a better year than we were budgeting for. So at year end, we have $17.8 million in fund balance, indicating that the county's in a very healthy financial position. Very similar to net position, we have to break out your fund balance into different categories. So you can see how some of the different items change year over year. There's really no items that changed too materially, except for the unassigned, which is your leftover fund balance. And that's really because expenses exceeded revenue for the current year as we budgeted for. Your total revenue increased by $820,000. We had a large increase in state aid for the year. And your total expenses increased by $9.3 million. That's because we received the IGT payment that we're required to make on behalf of the hospital from New York State. You can't really budget for that. New York State really doesn't give you much of a warning on it, but that is the entire reason those expenses increased. Well, really at this point, I want to turn it to you. If there's any questions I can go over in more detail, anything on the audit, financial statements, anything.
Any questions or comments from anybody?
So it looks good. We can support Eric for another year. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I would say overall, I think the biggest thing to take away is that the finances are well managed and you're in a healthy financial position.
All right. If there's no questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
And our next presentation is about a BOCES expansion opportunities with Jeffrey Ginger, Director of Career and Technical Adult and Continuing Education, and Stephen Todd, the District Superintendent.
Hi, folks. Steve Todd from BOCES, and good to see you all again. I just want to take a moment at the beginning to thank you for meeting with us and to introduce the folks that are with us. Jeff Ginger is our Director of Career, Technical Adult, and Continuing Education. He's going to do the bulk of the presentation and share with you some ideas that we've shared with Tim and his team earlier, a couple months ago. But also want to introduce a couple folks who are with us today. The President of our Board of Education, Jenny Jones, and Vice President Mike Young. You know them both very well, but as you know, we have lots and lots of representation on our board from Lewis County, lots of robust leadership and interest in expanding in Lewis County. That's what we're here to talk about. As Jeff will point out, we've seen tremendous growth in enrollments, anticipated further growth in enrollments. We've been growing our programs. We've got some ideas to grow them further. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Jeff.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr. Todd. I brought a couple of graphs with me. I'm not going to focus on the PowerPoint too much, but I do think it's nice for us to kind of show you what that growth looks like that Mr. Todd was just referring to. These numbers go back to the 2020-21 school year, so what I would call kind of the second COVID year, or the tail end there, and where we've gone since then. You can see that the overall numbers have continued to increase year over year. about a thousand, nearly 1,100 in the 21-22 school year, to a projected increase of, we've got 1,509 there. Those are students that are currently seated. We still have a wait list at BOCES for the next academic year of approximately 88, 89 students. We will sit as many as we can, but we are absolutely full. And that kind of brings us to the Lewis County conversation. We've been partnering very well with, yes, sir. Absolutely. Thanks, Mr. Dahoff. HGSTC is the HG Sackett Technical Center. So the yellow bars are our Lewis County Center. The green bar is our Watertown Bolin Technical Center, and the gray bar is our joint enrollment. Yeah.
Even though, because of the size of the catchment area and the number of students to draw from, we have more students at Bolin Technical Center. The percentage of eligible juniors and seniors participating in technical programs in Lewis County far outstrips that in Jefferson County. We're looking at, more than 50% of the kids here in Lewis County participate as juniors and seniors.
We're at 38, 39% on average in Jefferson County, and 52% of Lewis County juniors and seniors are attending career and technical ed programs at this point. So I think the key thing that I'd want to focus on this afternoon, if nothing else, is the necessity for strong partnerships in order to sustain the kind of growth that we're seeing. We haven't had a footprint change in the 5 years of data that I showed you previously. And so without larger BOCES facilities, the only way that we're meeting these needs is by partnering. And that has brought us to the Lewis County Extension Center, where we've been a partner renting space from the county with Jefferson Community College for the past 5 years. And really in the last calendar year, we've been able to utilize all of the available classroom space in the Extension Center to help meet our demands. Without that space, we would not be able to meet the need to the degree that we have been. And thankfully, there was some flexibility with the college as well, and we were able to work together so that we met our daytime needs with no issues. You can see we were filling the Extension Center with 1,332 students. And so with 1,500, potentially approaching 1,600 students in the next school year, it's, nearly 250 more in a full house. So we are continually looking for opportunities to grow and expand. But this is a good story that we're telling here today. This is not doom and gloom. We are poised to grow and move, and we're not afraid of this. This is what we've been waiting for forever. So we're ready to go. I would point to this slide here, the yellow bar specifically being our Lewis County programs. 3-year increase on the left side, and then 5-year increase shows you what the last 2 years have looked like. And again, this is with our projected numbers going into the 25-26 school year. A big factor in this growth is the fact that we have brought Carthage to the Lewis County Center. I don't know if all folks are aware of that, but the two centers are equidistant for the Carthage Central School District. And by making sure we were filling all of our classrooms in Lewis County, or backfilling our classrooms in Lewis County with some students from Jefferson County, it allowed us to open more seats up over in that neck of the woods so we could serve the 18 districts that we're beholden to a higher degree. We're nimble in this way, in that as we grow facilities and opportunities in Jefferson or Lewis County, we're able to work very closely with our component districts at making adjustments that serve the needs of all of the districts involved. And so where we've had expansion in Lewis County in recent years that are great stories to talk about is one in our heavy equipment operation program. Talking to Mr. Young, this was a dream for 20 plus years and many conversations. Our heavy equipment program in Lewis County is really focused on what I would call an agricultural and a forestry related heavy equipment operation. I actually was looking at some quotes on a track steer like the one you see on the left here, but with all forestry related modifications and riggings. It's actually a wheeled vehicle that you can add the tracks on to go into the woods. Some really cool functionality there. Some different kind of cages and bars for gripping logs and moving those things through the woods. So we're trying to cater to our audience as well. And this program is also poised to be able to offer CDLB training to every enrollee in the 25-26 school year. Again, looking to support the ag industry in the county to the degree that we're able to with existing programming. And it makes sense to incorporate the CDL right into that heavy equipment operation. Environmental forestry or environmental conservation and forestry is an area where we've been strong in Lewis County. But this is one where I would like to see some expansion and some new opportunities. Hence my talk about a logging skid steer. And then actually one that I wish that I'd put in here that I didn't, that we need to talk about as a real win for the county and for the BOCES is our new EMS program. That is housed in the Extension Center, and it started with a conversation right in this building with Mr. Pichet and I. A couple of county legislators were present for that meeting, and we discussed a real need in the rural space for more EMTs. And the question was asked of BOCES, can you build a program that helps us with a career pipeline in the EMS world? And so we built it. It took about 18 months from that first meeting until we were able to realize that project. But we recently hired an ex-county emergency manager to take over our program. So we're real excited about that. And the county provided some of the startup funding for that. We appreciate that. And then another area I want to talk about in terms of flexibility, when we talk about workforce development in the county, I think we should always keep in mind adult education opportunities, certification and training opportunities that allow people in a shorter period of time to upskill or to look for promotions within their workspace. This is an area where BOCES excels, and we have for a long time. But in the last 4 months, we've added between 6 and 7 programs in our adult ed repertoire. Many of them right now located at the Watertown campus, but certainly not all. We will be starting an adult cosmetology program in Lewis County in the fall. That's the first of its kind in the county. We're also looking at expanding potentially electrical wiring into Lewis County. And I would like to see us running an adult construction program or heavy equipment operation program as well. The point there being, these are the ideas we have now, but we are flexible and we are available and we're looking to partner and help in any way we can. Everyone I talk to in every career sector in the county talks about a shortage of workforce. And I think the way that we fix that problem, in addition to partnering with Fort Drum and looking to loop in, transitioning soldiers and families, I think our next best bet is tapping into the youth. And if we can get 12, 14, 16-year-olds thinking about high demand, high wage careers locally, perhaps we never see them leave. And I think that's the opportunity for economic development and entrepreneurship that we want to see in the region. Bringing people, well, these are the folks that stay, I guess is the point I would make. And that's also something I'd highlight with adult ed. Folks that are not on a traditional learning opportunity have often already put down roots. And so these are the places to tap into our local workforce who wants to contribute and stay in the area. Another one that we're putting in place, this program is poised to run in Watertown in the fall, but we are looking at both counties right now as potential spaces, is a basic solar installer. A lot of times the large companies will come into the county, they'll get approved for their solar farms, and then they're bringing labor with them from other places because the certifications required for this type of work aren't offered locally. Beginning in September, we'll be able to offer NABCEP certified basic solar installer courses right in Watertown. These folks could leave our course and go right to the workplace. Are there any questions or topics you would have liked us to discuss today that we haven't yet, that we can elaborate on?
No questions?
Thank you very much.
Exciting. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have a discussion on policy restricting electronic device use during executive or exempt privilege sessions. I guess I'll turn it over to Joan because she had a lot to
Yeah,
work on
thank
writing it
you.
up.
Actually, Legislator Kalmus came, met with me, and Tom, if you want to come up and speak a little bit to this as well, if you don't mind.
No problem.
Tom approached me about some draft policies he had seen before, and we thought it may not be a bad idea. I know a number of counties are starting to institute some of these policies, given the way that, social media and AI are just everywhere, whether or not you even realize it. So especially for executive sessions, we thought it would be something useful to have in place. And I'll let Tom speak to it a little bit more.
Yeah, I did. I modified one of the policies. I mean, everybody's got a cell phone, everybody's got a tablet, a computer. We have a smart board that gets pulled in here every once in a while. With all this AI, I think we're very vulnerable of somebody maybe has a screensaver off, but the thing's actually recording. And somebody could accidentally email all that communication right out through a whole network of stuff. And I'm sure our IT guy would confirm that. And even the video recording, if somebody's not here, but like Connor not here, somebody forgets to shut that off, that could accidentally trigger a result. So that's the reason I put this, modified this, and I give it to Joan and Tom to look through this to try to implement that to protect the confidentiality of anybody that's in an executive session.
I will say that we did remove the really harsh things that some of these policies had, where you literally had to deposit all of your devices at the door, and they were taken out of the room. So I think we can rely on everybody to be professional and act that way. And this is just a reminder at the beginning of every session that we have to be mindful of it and turn off the devices or put them on vibrate and make sure that they're not recording, so that we have that confidentiality that the legislators need when they're talking about something in executive session.
Yeah, it's very easy to have it in your pocket and accidentally just turn it on, without even realizing it, or call somebody,
Any questions or comments from anybody? I think in today's world, this is something that is needed. I know all the schools were talking about cell phone restrictions and so on. And I agree with Joan's comments that some of the things we began with was a lockbox and everything so on, but no. All right, thank you very much. Nope, just a minute.
Nope. I was just talking to Connor yesterday about the Read AI and how that can, record with you not even knowing, just by signing into it to read notes. So, I think this is a good policy in today's technology. So,
thank you. Anything else? All right.
Okay, the first draft resolution is authorizing a licensing and service agreement with Shy International Corp. Effective August 1st, 2025 through July 21st, 2030 for software licenses and products under Cisco Meraki at a cost not to exceed $26,500.20.
Any questions or comments?
I think it goes through July 31st.
Yes, that makes more sense.
All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
Approving and adopting the policy for Lewis County legislators, legislative staff, county officers and/or officials, and any other invited participants attending an executive and/or exempt session of the Lewis County Board of Legislators or its committees, subcommittees restricting electronic device use during executive or exempt privileged sessions.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing the Lewis County Planning and Community Development Department to submit the online consolidated funding application through the Smart Growth Community Planning and Zoning Program on behalf of the town and village of Blavel.
Questions or comments? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing the Lewis County Planning and Community Development Department to submit the online consolidated funding application through the New York State ESD Strategic Planning and Feasibility Studies Program in coordination with Beaver River Central School District to complete an on-site child care center feasibility study.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing the Lewis County Planning and Community Development Department to submit the online consolidated funding application through the 2025 New York State Department of State Brownfield Opportunity Areas Program to complete a countywide BOA inventory.
Questions or comments? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing the Lewis County Planning and Community Development Department in collaboration with the Highway Department to submit the online consolidated funding application through the New York State DEC Climate Smart Communities Program to complete a scoping and engineering study of County Route 22, also known as East Martinsburg Road.
Questions or comments? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing the Lewis County Planning and Community Development Department to submit the online consolidated funding application through the New York State DEC Climate Smart Communities Program to investigate and define mitigation measures for certain dams in Lewis County.
Questions or comments? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
Authorizing an IMA with the Village of Lyons Falls to provide grant administration services for the New York Forward Marketing, Branding, and Streetscape Enhancement Project by the Lewis County Planning and Community Development Department.
Questions or comments? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
Approving appointments to the Jefferson Lewis Workforce Development Board.
Questions or comments? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried.
And the last one is reappointing Eric Verkler of Lowell, New York to the Development Authority of the North Country effective August 5th, 2025 to August 5th, 2029.
Questions or comments? All in favor, aye. Opposed? Carried. And we don't have any motions, none executive session. If there's anything else, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Jeff, seconded by Herb. All in favor? We are adjourned.